Dear Atiku supporters, by now you must have registered as Atiku volunteers under the Atiku support management system. Now some of you will be selected as Atiku agents in your respective polling units. So this is a call for you to become the Atiku agent in your unit. Here are some functions, criteria, and procedures to become Atiku agents. The Atiku agents are responsible for uniting the volunteers at their polling units. On the agent portal, agents can access and download the contacts of the Atiku volunteers under their polling units so that they can contact them for local organizing. As an agent, you are responsible for organizing regular meetings with your volunteers and strategizing how to ensure Atiku wins your polling unit. You are also responsible for submitting election results with an attached copy of the signed result sheet and reporting incidents. You are to use your portal to submit election results electronically. In the agent portal, under incidents, you should report records or evidence of your meetings and campaign activities at your unit. Using your portal, you should upload details of the voters you and your volunteers canvass daily. You are also responsible for identifying and working in harmony with other existing campaign structures from the political party and other volunteer groups at your polling units. By requesting to be an Atiku agent, you agreed to voluntarily perform your duties and work for the emergence of His Excellency Atiku Abubakar as the President of Nigeria. To become an Atiku agent under the Atiku support management system, you must first register as a volunteer at your polling unit. If you have not done that yet, you can do that via the link shown here. Once you become a volunteer at your polling unit, you can then request to be the agent of your polling unit by filling out this agent request form. The agent registration link will only be sent to the selected agents. Now go ahead and request to be an agent under the Atiku support management system. We look forward to receiving your request and to work with you as Atiku agents in your units. Thank you so much and bye for now.
Hey guys, good morning and welcome to another beautiful time out here on your favorite morning show, Every Woman on AtikuLive. My name is Tiana Waldbarsi and I'm excited to have you guys join me on today's episode. I have with me here my very beautiful co-host.
Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome to Every Woman, and I'm excited as usual to be here.
Yes, we're really excited because we're going to talk about something very important that I know a lot of people don't know. It's a problem. In fact, it has become a major plague in Nigeria. The culture of silence. And I'm sure people out there don't know that there's something called the culture of silence. People don't know that when you go through issues, let's start with issues before we actually go down into what we want to talk about. People don't know that when you go through issues, something as simple as when you're broke. Yeah, something as simple as when you're broke. If you keep quiet, nobody's going to help you. I mean, I'm not a witch to know that you're broke. I'm not a witch to know that you couldn't go to work because you didn't have money, or you couldn't go to the hospital because you didn't have money, or you're sick because you haven't eaten in days. It's one of the reasons we're going to be discussing the culture of silence, because I mean, when you start talking, when people start talking and getting other people involved, what I mean involved now, we need to create a balance, because we've seen where people say, when you share your problem, doesn't mean it's going to get a problem shared is not a problem solved. A problem shared is I'm a ball that has been circulated around. But the thing is, when you go through serious issues, especially issues that are life-threatening, something as little as you not being able to eat for days, and you're able to share it with someone, there should be somebody in your life, or there is somebody in your life that's around you that you know when you talk to concerning pressing issues, you'd be able to get, even if not 100% of help, but at least 50% of response. So that brings us to what we're talking about today, the culture of silence. And it's very sad to know that the Nigerian society is gradually degenerating into a punitive nightmare for her citizens, especially the girl child and women, because I mean, we cannot keep talking about violence enough until we're able to see a significant increase or a significant decrease in violence, from whether it's our cultural practices, from the FGMC to rape, which is a major problem, to gender-based violence, gender inequality, until we're able to see a significant decrease in these percentages and these statistics. We won't stop talking about it, because I mean, it contributes greatly to our society development and, of course, the Nigerian economy at large.
Yeah, I agree. And for me, first of all, I think Nigeria is a multicultural society. We have different cultures from Ijaw to Igbo. But among these many cultures, like you said, is the culture of silence. And it is a very strong culture. I mean, the silence is deafening. It is so loud. Like, you can go out on a busy street and somebody, a young Nigerian, can get mobbed. They can get attacked. They can be raped in a busy environment with everybody passing and nothing is done.
Yeah.
That's how loud this silence is. And then you want to bring it down to Nigeria, down to the girls. You see how loud that silence is, that even though 70% of women on girls have been raped even before they turn 28 or sexually molested, nothing is being done. We're not seeing a corresponding, they're not seeing a corresponding action, legal action against these people. We're not seeing these people being
prosecuted. We're
not seeing them held
actions.
accountable or responsible for their actions. And then what this does is that people just go around and continue doing the same thing that they've been doing. And that's how loud this silence is. And this is why it's dangerous. It's dangerous for us as Nigerians, especially as women, because if you're in an environment where you cannot speak, if you're in an environment that the culture of silence is prevalent, then it's what it does is that you've hindered people from preferring solutions, and you've created an environment where issues cannot be raised and solutions cannot be preferred.
True.
And once you've done this, already it means we're already retrogressing. We are moving backward. We are not developing. We are not moving forward, because people that have issues cannot come to the table with their issues. And what you see that these people resort to other means, probably violence. And then the people who have solutions to some of the challenges cannot bring it up because they've been taught not to speak, or they grew up in a society where they weren't allowed to speak. And if you have this, then what it means is that we are not making any progress. I mean, when we were talking about gender-based violence, we talked about women in Adamawa State, we talked about women in Borno, in Maiduguri, that could not come out to talk about the things that they had gone through. They were quiet, they were in their shells. They could not come out to say, oh, I know who is responsible for this. Oh, I recognize one of these criminals. I recognize one of these insurgents. This is this person. They can't come out to speak to save their lives. So when you say it's life-threatening, I know some people who might wonder, what is life-threatening about?
Not speaking
silence is life-threatening. If you cannot speak up, if you cannot say something, then what you've done through your inaction or your inability to speak is that you've encouraged or you've endorsed the trend. Whatever the trend is, you've endorsed it, and you're lending credence to whatever is on ground. So you've made sure that whoever is abusing you, whoever is causing you pain, is still there, and nothing is being done to the person.
Yes, you've given the person an upper hand in the situation. When you were talking about people coming out to speak and someone causing you pain and all of that, and how deafening the culture of silence is, it just brings me to one major aspect that we keep overlooking, and it's happening. I can bet you even in 2022, we still have that going on in major families, and that is in-family violence, where you have kids being molested by either their parents. Because, I mean, their siblings and parents, we're not just talking about, I know this is every woman, and of course our priority is on the women and the girl child, but let's not forget that 10%, like we said yesterday, 10% of every man you see today have been molested while growing up by someone they trusted, either an older house help or an auntie or a cousin.
It still falls back on the women. I mean, what culture were you raised in? What values, what societal values, what values do you have, were you raised with that makes you think it is okay
to molest
a young boy? Like it's a very wrong thing. And then you wonder about the psychological state of that person. For you as a woman to go and molest a boy, no, that's wrong.
And that brings me to what I started talking about, and that is the in-family violence, which has to do with the girl, and particularly about the girl child, because we've had cases where 5 to 16-year-old keep getting molested by either stepfathers or older brothers.
I heard the story of a 2-year-old that was molested.
Oh my goodness.
A 2-year-old child that was molested, sexually abused, and you wonder why. What sort of sexual deprivation is this? Why would you?
For a 2-year-old, how do you
do
get?
that?
I know these people are actually pedophiles, but how do you get aroused by a 2-year-old?
I don't. This is I don't know. This is just totally wrong on so many levels.
Of course.
And it still falls back. I mean, for a 2-year-old child who cannot speak, that's one case. But when you have a 6-year-old that has begun to speak, it falls on you as a parent, as a guardian, to tell this child to begin. I know that at some point in the past 2 years, I became a part of this a program, My Body is My Body, where young children were being taught about the parts of their body and being taught, okay, so when somebody touches you like this, tell your parents, tell your guardian, tell whoever you're living with. If the person attempts, speak up, because that's the first point of contact. At that point, it's still more preventive rather than curative. Because if you've touched the child and the child now comes to tell the parent, oh, so uncle touched me, at that point the damage has been done.
But IJ, you are looking at you telling your parents. What if the damage is being done by the parents? What do you do? Who do you talk to at that time? Because we've had issues and cases where the child is being molested by her fathers. Most of the cases are actually stepfathers. Even though we've had cases by biological fathers, though, but we've had stepfathers molesting a 5-year-old.
In cases.
And you realize that 5-year-old cannot actually speak.
No, I think in cases like this is where we have experts, and we need to start creating safe spaces for our children, for our society. It doesn't even have to be your biological child. You have to start creating safe spaces, because like you mentioned, what if it's a biological parent? Some people have had the cases where a mother dies and then the father starts molesting the child.
Yes.
And in such cases, the child doesn't even know what's going on till they are older. So it now falls on government, ministries. We have a Ministry of Women Affairs. We have CSOs. We have organizations and agencies that are looking out for the welfare of the child. Now, what it needs to do is that a policy needs to be created. Support needs to be given to these agencies, to these organizations, to do what? To go down to primary schools, to secondary schools, to have programs where you create, a sort of safe space to interact with these children. I've had the opportunity to interact with certain children, and the things they've said will shock you. I've talked to a 10-year-old who alleged that her stepfather was abusing her, and her mother was away. So if this kind of opportunity to engage these children, if there's no safe space to sit down and talk with these children, at that point where they are still young, they're still impressionable, that they can still open up. If there's no space created for them to come out and explain, then who are they going to talk to? Because you don't expect that child is going to go and talk to one uncle or one auntie and tell the uncle, oh, my daddy is doing this, or my auntie is doing this. You as an auntie or an uncle, yes, you can relate to that child in a way that, lets that child confide in you. But programs like this enable you as, contributors, to the development of the society. It enables you as an individual that has a vested interest in the growth of the society and the well-being of the girl child to go and meet with these girls and talk to them and say, oh, how are you doing? I mean, we had some time in the past where children that they're supposed to be of school age, if your child is of school age and you're not going to school, then you can be arrested for that. And then if we had such a program too, where you're going around talking to these young children, how are you? Social protection services, how are you? What's going on here? And you make them comfortable enough. It's not a one-day thing. You have to build that trust with that child to be able to open up to you and say, oh, this happened, this happened, this happened. And then you need to go beyond providing that safe space for them. You need to provide protection for that child. Because if a child is being abused, if a child is being molested, then you should take it over, hand it over to the appropriate agencies. We have agencies like NAPTIP. Hand it over to the appropriate agencies. Make sure that, first of all, that child is taken away to a place where they can feel safe. Take that child away from that environment where they are being abused. It's not enough to, take the case and still send them back to where they are being abused, because they might even get killed. What can happen? So take them out, give them shelter, put them in a position, in a place where they can feel secure, and then make sure that whoever is doing this to this child is held accountable.
I think just to add to what you just said, IJ, is in addition to making that child feel safe, I think one of the areas where we've actually missed it is the area of confidentiality. because you don't, when you have, just like the doctors have the doctor to patient confidentiality, you should have that counselor to your client's confidentiality as well, because most times we put those kids out there and then they face stigma.
And put their stories out there, and it's wrong. It's very wrong.
Especially if this child is a minor. We've talked about the issue
laws. There are laws around guiding these things.
But when we talk about laws, IJ, despite advocacy, one of the reasons why we still have increase in the culture of silence is because we have the ineffective laws. We have slow speed of implementation of laws and acts in Nigeria.
The first reason, and one of the biggest reasons why we have the culture of silence, is stigmatization. Because nobody wants to come out and tell you, oh, I was raped. More so when it's by a family member. Nobody wants to come and tell you, oh, this my uncle abused me, or this teacher did this to me, or this is my friend, or this person that you're dating. And imagine your spouse raping you. How do you come out? You don't, and because people are going to stigmatize, and it's even worse for boys too. That's not, because a boy cannot come out and tell you he was raped. It takes a lot for a guy to come out and say, oh, I was raped. They're going to laugh at him. So it's more of stigmatization, because I mean, when we had this Charity Anaja, and she was talking about the centers that were provided in the states.
Yes, SAC.
Yes, SAC for the registry, you know, to put offenders, sexual offenders there in the registry. And she said they are there. Or when she mentioned that, you know, some shelter had been provided by agencies like NAPTIP, and that cases were being handled. But the problem was people reporting the cases. People coming to say, oh, this happened to me. If somebody rapes you and is a family member, of course I know the family member. I know where the person lives. I know this person's details. All I have to do is go to the police and make a formal complaint. This person abused me. This person did this. I know my rights. I'm asking that this happens to this person. You arrest this person in compliance with the law. You do this, and this is what I'm expecting from you as custodians of the law, as law enforcement, you know, agency. This is what I'm expecting of you, to enforce the law. The law says this. I'm reporting to you. Enforce this law. But the thing is that, one, which is the major problem, these people don't even get as far as, you know, going to go and report and say, oh, this, because once you get there, sometimes even the law enforcement, they make fun of these people.
That's, so, I was actually coming to that, because I mean, even if we were talking about taking them to go, asking them to go report these cases, what is the level of training? Are we sure that these law enforcers, they have that level of training to be able to cope the situations? Because at the end of the day, when you talk about stigmatization, how do people get stigmatized? Is when they know your situation. How do they know?
Said it. If you don't say it, nobody knows what happens to you. So to prevent, you know, that stigma of, that's the girl that this happened to, or that's the person that this happened to, the person will say, let me just keep it. And then we have people like Osinachi that died. And until she died, not many people knew that this was what she was going through. But at the end
of the day, she still had people who were around her who knew she was going through issues like that. That's what I'm saying.
So she didn't say it enough. I didn't think she restated that point enough, that this is what I am going through, or this is this. I think one of those people who knew the extent of what she was going through, did you listen to the confession of the child? If you knew that this is the extent to which, if your friend telling you, oh, that her husband beat her up and this, of course you're not going to understand yourself. Like, why are men like this? That's what you're going to do. Why are men like this? Why is he beating his wife now? What's this one? Sorry, dear. If he does it again, just do this one, or you're going to do this one, or you're going to report, and that's it for you. You move on with your life, because you don't know that whoever it is in a very dire situation. You don't understand that this person could get killed. You're still saying it, even the ones that are woke, the woke generation, they will tell you, why is it? Call him out on Twitter, take him to police, do this one, that one. And you say it, and then you mind your business, because you do not understand just how much, of danger that person is in. So it goes beyond the whole noise making and all. But once the person feels like, oh, if I tell you the full extent of what I'm going through, you're going to always use that against me. You're going to tell me, oh, you that they are beating every day. And that stigmatization is there. Or you that their husband is using as a punching bag. We've come online, we've seen celebrities online that they've mocked, that they've trolled because they were being abused.
Funny enough,
and it is very annoying.
And then most times, most of those celebrities that do the mocking, let's not talk about celebrities.
Are being abused themselves.
Are being abused themselves. Because how
do you troll somebody somebody. How is that?
When you're going through the same issue,
it's not even. You don't have to go through the same issue. That's not something you use to troll somebody. That's not something. There has to be a line. You don't use such things to troll somebody to say, "Oh, you that your husband was beaten." I mean, in one of the reality shows, this Real Housewives of Lagos, they were trolling one of the housewives at some point, saying, "You that your husband used to beat." And how is that a talking point in an argument? How do you do that? Somebody was being abused by a husband, and you think this is a very good point to use and drag her? Really? Guys, it's baseless.
Guys, I'm gonna go on a very quick break. When we're right back, we'll pick it up from where we stopped. Don't go nowhere.
Nigeria needs serious help, and we have positioned ourselves to be part of the change that is going to come 2023.
And we're on a mission to make Nigeria a better place and united place just like you.
We've actually studied this government, and we see that a lot is going on, and we youth want to duly be involved. And we've checked, like you said, the permutation of the ongoing political organizations, and we see that your organization conforms with the goals that we want to achieve.
Young men and women, I just don't like the proportion. I would have loved to see more women. Politics is a career. I started, in fact, from school. And as a career, you normally start from the bottom, and you move up. But one thing is that I cannot remain unthankful to Nigeria. As I used to say, if it was like today, I wouldn't be able to go to school. Because, unfortunately, our various levels of government, from local government to state government, these are virtually the two most important levels of government that should make sure every child goes to school in this country. It is our administration that made a law and said every Nigerian child must go to school, to at least secondary school. And we are taxing Nigerians to fund education. Yet the level of public education today in Nigeria has collapsed. It pains me a lot. There are some things, no matter how wealthy you are in the private sector, you will not be able to influence until you are the youth. Is here tomorrow. If you come out to protect the process, good for you. Me, I've lived my life. What I'm doing now is I'm struggling for your life. What I'm doing now, I'm doing it for you. I am ready to guide you, to protect you, defend your interests as long as I'm strong, healthy, and alive. There will be subsequent interactive sessions with you. I look forward to that.
Yes. As one, we can get it done.
If you're just joining us, this is Every Human on AtikuLive, where we get to talk about issues that concerns the human across all sectors. And before we went on a break, we were talking about the culture of silence. Why do Nigerians scratch that? Why do women, Nigerian women and young girls in Nigeria practice the culture of silence?
It starts from the top. It's a top to bottom thing.
I know, right?
It's a top to bottom thing.
I know.
So, first of all, we have a president. We have his wife, who he said, the president said there's nothing like the office of the first lady.
The wife of the president.
Yes, there's nothing like the office of the first lady. So his wife does not have any. And then we've looked at other first ladies who have been so
very vocal. Yeah,
we've seen Stella Obasanjo while she was the first lady. We saw Patience Jonathan. These first ladies that Yaradwa's wife was also, vocal. We've seen these first ladies in their office. We've seen what they've been able to do, the giant strides they've been able to make. And so for him to say, my wife, it belongs to the other room, and the kitchen and the other room. What you've said is that my wife is not meant to be heard.
And actually, I think she has actually she has lived that reality to a full extent, because like you said, we've seen some of the giant strides that some of the first ladies, most of the first ladies have done, even at the Guba level, the governorship level. We've seen a lot of first ladies who don't even come out. They've had different platforms of which they've been able to speak on behalf of women. But I don't see that with the wife of the president.
And you understand
that means she has actually practiced the culture of silence.
Speaking is not even, and I think many people misunderstand it when they say the culture of silence. It's not even about you, literally speaking, because you can speak with your actions. We have women like Toyin Saraki that are not even very, come out and talk all the time, but who do things, and you see the things that they are able to do, and you're like, okay, this woman is not going to just sit in some place and let people ride over her. She's making significant contribution. We have Honorary Duke. We have women.
We are going too far. We have the wife of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar that started Whatclef. And we can dare to say that, we can dare to say that Whatclef actually contributed to the birth of NAFDAC. And imagine the work, NAPTIP rather. Imagine the work NAPTIP is doing today in
and
combating
that's one woman's brainchild. So you've seen all of this. We've seen that these women, and that's where it starts from, really. It starts from there. You have to show these women that, okay, my wife is allowed to speak. Women are allowed to speak. You're encouraging women to participate, women to speak. And then we'll come to the National Assembly, where we don't have enough women to stand there and speak.
We can't even say that enough.
That's where the problem is. So we're not encouraging women at any level to speak. You're not encouraging the woman on the street to speak. You're not encouraging the woman that is not on the street to speak. Who are you now? The woman that is in Asoro cannot speak. So who are we now encouraging to speak? Well, this is where the culture of silence is. So it's not, and let's not be mistaken, it's not just about those in governance. It's about the families of, women in the families. When you're in your family and you have women there, it's about letting the women speak. It's about not telling them, oh, this is a boy's role. Oh, women, this does not concern you. You're a woman. Go and wait first. Let's finish. When men are talking, women don't talk. This kind of
or don't pick up this career, because this career is not meant for a woman, it's meant for a man.
Those statements are, those are what constitutes or what leads to the culture of silence as we know it today. Because these women are not given opportunities to speak, to air their, to air their opinions, to say what they have inside them. And so many times you see these women, they just sit down there and they're taking whatever life gives them. And then you're looking at it, because this is a very broad topic. You're looking at it and you're looking at, for example, reproductive health in Nigeria. And we don't have enough, enough women. Women are, the culture of silence there, very prevalent. Women are not really speaking about sexual and reproductive health. And it's really bad because it affects a lot of women globally, not just in Nigeria. I think about 54% or so. And these are women that are suffering from issues like this. So a woman has some sort of reproductive health infection or sexual, some STIs or any, and she can't speak, urinary tract infection. Do you know how many women have something as common as UTI and they can't talk because they don't want, it's me that, how will I say it? Who will I tell? How will I? Also, people have menstrual pain or menstrual problems, irregular cycles, something as basic, and they can't talk.
And then
how do they get help?
I think most of the times when it comes to issue of irregular cycles and menstrual pain, I've actually witnessed firsthand where a 14-year-old was talking to her mom and she was like, okay, she's really going through serious menstrual pain. And the mother was like, you have to bear it, you're a woman. Like, you just shut her up one time.
Yeah, you just shut her up.
And that child lives with the fact that, okay, she has to bear pain.
And there might be an underlying cause. There are some menstrual problems, actually, and there are drugs to help with, certain menstrual pain.
True.
And if you don't allow these people to speak up, then how do you understand? How are you going to provide solution? How are you going to move forward? I think we have in other countries where we have things like tampons that are as different from, pads, menstrual pads. It came about for a reason. There are so many, and we have, okay, what about contraceptives? For people who want to go for birth control, the family planning and all that. We don't even have enough women engaging in such conversations.
They don't even know what it's about. We have a large percentage
of issues.
Yeah, that women don't even know what that is about. And speaking of this, we can't talk about the culture of silence without talking about the effect on first the woman and then the society. Because whether you like it or not, we've said it times without number that women make half of the population or close to half of the population. Yeah. And if you have that kind of population being kept at one particular place, it was going to actually show on the success of that state, that country, that society,
nation,
and that nation as a whole. So first of all, when we talk about the effect, sometimes someone will just say, now women are concerned now, or it's the women's business, basically. But you don't know that whatever affects the woman
affects the entire nation.
It affects the entire nation. So let's go straight to looking at the major effects of the culture of silence, of first the woman. Because at the end of the day, we're grooming sad women, we're grooming, because when you have a child, a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, who is unable to tell you her pain, who you've not been able to build a relationship with, or who you've deliberately shut up because you don't want the family name to be brought down. You don't want the family name to be dragged, drag the family name in the mud. You've ended up grooming a silent child. And in fact, a child who is going to be traumatized for the rest of her life. You've groomed a depressed child. You've groomed someone who will go out to the society. Instead of making good impact, we have that's what gives birth to different deviant behaviors in the society. If they're not depressed today, they've started doing drugs tomorrow. If they're not doing drugs tomorrow, they are taking antidepressants so that they could sleep, or they're having suicidal thoughts and tendencies and the rest of it. So let's basically look at what is the effect when you tell your wife don't speak, or when you shut your wife up in family meetings or in the society or outside in gatherings. What is the effect? What is it telling on you as the man and the family at large? I
think when we were talking, something really struck me, and I think until now, I didn't consider. So I was talking to one of my favorite people recently. She's 10 years, and I was having this conversation, and she was telling me about her new neighbors and how there was a young girl just about her age. She was like, well, we don't talk a lot. And I asked her, like, why don't you talk with her? I mean, do you have a new neighbor and she's about your age? You guys should be friends. You have the new person to talk to. She's like, no, she doesn't talk. She doesn't talk. She doesn't like to talk. I'm like, what do you mean? You have to, engage her, in conversations and really draw her out. And she said, no, that even her siblings say she doesn't really talk. And I was worried. Like, oh, okay, why? I mean, maybe she's just withdrawn. But now, looking at it in this light, it's possible that there's been an experience that has caused this child not to talk. And for so many children, when you see a child withdrawn, there's been an experience that child has got, and that child is not willing to share, is not willing to talk, and most times these children just live with that experience. So first of all, the effect is, like you said, you're raising sad children, you're raising children that are not self-aware, you're raising children that are not assertive. They cannot assert their rights. When we say that Nigerians don't know their rights, and Nigerians are, one of the biggest problems of Nigeria is ignorance. People don't know their rights. They don't know when they are right or wrong. They don't know that they can come out and challenge those things. They don't know that they have the power to, to decide how the nation goes just using a PVC. When we come out and say that, it comes out from the raising of that person, that the person does not even know how to assert their rights. They've been taught for so long not to assert their right that, you don't matter. When people say, oh, my vote doesn't count. That's how they feel. True. They feel like they don't matter. They don't mean anything. So my vote doesn't yourself count.
Before
what
you're
you said
belittled.
is my voice doesn't count. So there's no need for me to speak. That's why we are silent. We are silent on issues where our voice should be heard the loudest. We are silent on electoral issues. We are silent on election day, where our voice should be the loudest. As women, we make up 49.3% of the population. That is where you should hear our voices. That is where we should tell you, as a collective, as women, that if you're not doing this for us, we're not voting for you. Or this is who we are voting, and this is where we stand. And we're not just saying that literally. We are saying it with our PVCs. We are saying, okay, this person is giving us 30 to 35%. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar wants to include us in his government. This is where we are casting our votes. This is where we speak. We don't have to speak literally. We speak with our PVCs. We speak, with the way we engage our policymakers, our lawmakers, the people that represent us. It speaks in the way we say, you have not represented us. You're leaving. You're not going back.
So at the end of the day, what we're trying to say is that one of the effects of the culture of silence is
bad governance.
Bad governance, and on the woman would say is low self-esteem. Because I mean, if you don't have a good self-esteem, all of this you're talking about won't be possible. You won't have a woman come out to challenge a leader, to tell the leader, okay, you said you were going to do this and you haven't done it. So I don't see any reason why you deserve that office. So at the end of the day, when we have women who are not able to come out, there is a foundational problem.
Yes.
Which is the culture of silence. they have not been able to speak. They have not been told. They have not been trained to speak. They've not been given that space to speak. Because I mean,
they've been trained to be silent
to be
where
silent.
they should be vocal.
I mean, so at the end of the day, you realize that the environment does not even permit them to come out. So we're just left in one particular position, like Aja always said, we're just left to the position of the national woman leader, of the woman leader. We're just giving that, okay, hold this as a compensation. And even at that office, it's insulting. Even at that office, you realize that bulk of the work is taken away.
I am annoyed that there's a need to create the Ministry of Women Affairs, the office of the national woman leader. It is somehow insulting. Why don't we have the office of the national man leader? Why don't we have Ministry of Men Affairs? I mean, we're talking about gender equity. It's fairness. Why don't we have office of the husband of the president? Why don't we have such things? And this is the reason we don't have it, because they don't believe that, one, that we are going to sit there in Aso Rock as president. Nobody, so it's laughable to say office of the husband. Your office of the wife of the president, that's what we'll give you. Office of the first lady, not office of the first husband, the first man. We will not have such an office, because what are you doing there to start with? That's your only role there. And then you come to the party, because it's not thought that we'll have we'll have a female chairman of the party, because we'll have a female chairman of the board of trustees or something, because they don't think that we'll have female governors that can be chairman of governors forum, or chairpersons rather. Because it's not there that we'll have this, we'll say, okay, how do we include women? And I commend them. Don't get me wrong. I commend them for, the thoughts that, okay, so there's a fundamental problem, and it's not entirely on them that women are not in these positions. Let's be factual. It's not entirely of them. It is a fault of the society that women have not gotten to, to believe in themselves enough to aspire to these positions. So I commend them that, okay, you sat back and thought about it and say, oh, we have very little women representation. What can we do for the women? Can we create an office of the woman leader for them so that we carry them along? Can we have Ministry of Women Affairs so that the interests of women are ably represented? I agree. Those are very, very commendable efforts. But I think for our women, as women, we need to also start to aspire to be more. We need to know that we can impact women beyond women affairs, because the reason we have offices like this is because we have Ministry of Niger Delta. These are because these people have a legit agitation, and they've been marginalized, or in some way. So for women affairs, it's because we've been marginalized in some way. So by the time we have more women representing us, that go into the National Assembly, the House of Representatives, they're going to some of this office, take up position in some of this office, are speaking for us, then we will no longer be minority. We will no longer be marginalized, and there will be no need for such an office as the Ministry of Women Affairs, because these women's affairs are being taken care of at the floor of the National Assembly, because these things are in our policy. We don't need a separate ministry. We should not. We are human beings. We are citizens of Nigeria. We don't need a separate ministry. We want that these things be enshrined in our constitution, in our policies, and so that there's no need for specific attention. Giving us basic things like right to live, right to eat, taking care of our sexual and reproductive health. All of these issues should be taken care of within within our constitution. And then there's no need for this extra attention. We don't need it. It's patronizing, and we don't need it.
I mean, talking about policies, I think it's that we just quickly look at some of these policies and laws that encourages, or at the other end, fights against the culture of silence. And one of it is what we talked about yesterday. I'm very big on the VAP Act because it's encompassing. It's really tackles every issue that concerns violence that is against the woman. And it's a very beautiful act or law, if I would call it that, because it considers the man as well. It considers the man. As it should. Yeah, it says the boy child can be raped, which is very true. The reasons why we have most men these days, or a larger percentage of men who act as if they don't have good home training, is because they had a battered upbringing. They had a battered childhood. Yes, they had a battered childhood, and most men believe that everything is violence. Violence can solve everything. You have to listen to me, and if you're not listening to me, I have to beat you to get you to listen to me.
Because I'm the man.
Because I'm the man. I mean, nobody's struggling. Nobody's struggling you're
not dragging that title
platform or that title with you. No. But at the end of the day, you should understand that there's a place for dialogue. There's so many issues you can solve that you don't have to solve with violence. So one of the laws that I'm really big on is the VAP Act, but there is still an issue. So when you were talking about not blaming the government entirely, they tried, they talked about...
No, I didn't say the government. I didn't say the government at all.
But what I'm trying to say, essence, is that why do we have slow implementation of laws like this that fights for the women? We talked about yesterday, why do we have 4 states left to domesticate a law as important as the VAP Act? That does not only look at the woman, but also considers the man. Because if we have an act like this that streamlines people, especially when we look at the punishment, like we said yesterday, we need to really make the punishment very...
100,000 naira fine for somebody who injures me physically?
And really? 200,000 fine for someone who has the
intent. No. If you injure me physically, there's a possibility that you can pay 100,000 naira and be free. Really?
So at the end of the day, we need to do more. We need to do more because when we talk about laws and policies, we already know. It's no news that the Nigerian constitution, or let's just call it African space, does not actually support the woman, and our cultural practices actually is offensive when it comes to the woman, right? But at the end of the day, when we are able to have laws, and that's why I commend the PDP-led administration that was led by Goodluck Jonathan that brought about the VAP Act. I mean, when we have something as beneficial,
it's a win for us.
It's really a win-win. When you have women represented, you have the economy growing faster.
At this point, even with the VAP Act, we're not even talking about representation. We're just talking about making women feel safe. That's the basic thing. Just the security, secure our lives, secure us as women, and make sure that we are not exposed to violence. I think that's the simplest thing any woman can ask for. And to not have it domesticated in all the states, I don't know. It's something that really needs to be looked into.
And considering the fact that this is like a legal tool that is helping to create a safe environment for young girls and women, I have an issue, a very big issue with the why. The why is it not domesticated in every state? And even in the states that it's been domesticated, how many let's look at statistics now and data. How many data or studies have we collected from the states that it has been domesticated? How many people have we prosecuted? Let's look at that, because at the end of the day, it's Nigeria. Okay,
we create that's what we
create policies, we implement it. What's the way forward?
It is the job of the lawmakers to formulate and make laws. It is the job of law enforcement agencies to enforce these laws. So I think at this point, it's not a problem of the enforcement agencies, the police and all, to make sure that these laws that have been passed are enforced. So if we say that if you rape a child of 14 years, you're going to be in prison for 14 years, then I expect that when a complaint comes, that you first of all, you take this person, charge this person to court, go through a trial, go through all the legal, make sure that due process is followed. And if this person is convicted, found guilty, let the person go to jail for 15 years or 14 years as it were. Let the law take its order. Let it be done, the due process. Let everything follow and through.
Take it
but then it starts with the police, because you're our first point of contact. The police are the first point of contact. And I think there's been a lack of trust in the system, a lack of trust in enforcement agencies to actually enforce the law. So we need, I also think that our policing needs to be a reform. There needs to be collaboration with other agencies. Like when you were talking about the counseling, there needs to be some sort of training. Some of the police officers need to learn counseling. You need to know how to counsel people, to work with people. Because somebody walks in and tells you they've been raped by a family member or raped by their father. You can imagine the psychological trauma. And that is not the time to say, oh, come and write your statement.
Be empathic.
Come and write your statement. What were you wearing? What did this one do? When did it start? Your mama know. That's not because this person is already. You can imagine the psychological trauma and what that person must have gone through to even open up.
I'm sorry to cut you, AJ. I mean, even the people that have surmounted that courage to come out and talk about their experience, when they get to that level, like you were saying, when they get to the police station, they just lose hope. Because, I mean, it's useless. Why did I even come here in the first place? Why did I even say anything? And we've had issues where we've had law enforcement agencies or law enforcers trying to also have their way. Try to also have their way with according to Miss Charity yesterday, with the survivors. We'll not call them victims. They also try to have their way. So, in fact, I think I just remember this story, but I've had a first-hand story about a lady who, she actually wanted to put this into movie production. She wanted to produce this. It was her true life story. How she had been molested from age 4. And each time the more, when we're growing up, I don't know about the Gen Zs, right? And today's parents, but in those days, I call it in those days, I'm not that old though, but when we're growing up, our moms were still the ones who actually bathed us till we turned 10, 12, 13.
Speak for yourself.
Well, I'm speaking for myself anyways. I'm speaking for myself though. And then she had one of these encounters where the mom noticed that there's an issue. And when she tried to tell the mother, this was what happened, or this is who is involved, she did not hear the last of it. They called her a witch. Oh my goodness. When I heard her story, I really felt for her. They called her a witch. She was being beaten. In fact, she was sent to convent.
They were trying to keep her quiet.
Keep her quiet. And today, that particular lady she had been able to put herself together to speak up. Because one of the good things about speaking up is it helps you heal faster.
It helps to heal. But you need to also do it in a healthy environment, in a very healthy way. You don't do it in a way that when for people that have left abusive marriages, for example, and they speak up and people keep telling them or reminding them, you that could not stay in your husband's house.
What did you do before you were sent out?
It has to be your fault. Because why did the man beat you? This one. And then that's a very unhealthy environment to open up. It's a very unhealthy space for you to let out your feelings and the energy. You open up yourself and all this negative energy comes in. It's like you said, one of the effects. It can make you depressed. It can make you want to commit suicide.
Sure.
And that's not a healthy way. So I think we should also have helplines. I think we do. That you can call, you can talk to people. We need to have more support groups. I see this in some societies where there are like support groups for pregnant mom, for survivors of rape, for survivors of this, that they come together because they understand, they have a common reality. They understand each other. So they're able to go there, and then you have a therapist or a psychologist, somebody who is able to walk them through these these experiences to a place where they are happier, where they can. A lady had been gang raped, and she, it affected her. It affected the way she related to men. It affected the way she was able to live. So once she's a man, she doesn't want to have any sort of conversation with you. And you imagine the kind of psychological effects this has had on this lady. And then there's so many women out like that cannot even contribute meaningfully to society because of some experience that they've had that they've not healed from, because they've not shared these experiences. They've not let go of the hurt, of the pain, of the scars that are there. So they need an environment. They need a space where they can relate to people who've gone through the same thing, walk through it with a psychologist or a therapist, where they can really get therapy and move on, heal from whatever that situation experience has done to them, and be able to help. Because when you've passed through it and you've healed, you're able to help somebody else who is in that same situation. I think that's what we need more of.
At the end of the day, healing is not just a one-day thing. So that's what everyone should know. When you've gone through issues, it can be very traumatizing. It's not a one-day thing. And please be open enough to allow someone help you. Because sometimes you go through issues and you shut everybody out. You just want, it gives you just want to be by yourself. At that point, you can actually harm yourself at that point. So this is the much we can take for today's episode. But please have this at the back of your mind that you owe yourself. You owe yourself the obligation to speak out. You're obligated to speak out. In any situation you find yourself, there should be somebody who you trust enough to talk to. And please, we have gotten to that point where even when you talk and you're being stigmatized, you know what you're talking about, because whatever you're saying is helping the next person out there. So please learn how to speak out, and also know that your healing process is not a one-day thing. It's a gradual process. When you heal, you can help others heal. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. I'm excited to have you guys join us on today's episode is quite emotional for me because this topic is quite personal for me. I've had personal people, close people who have gone through issues like this, and it's really personal. But I'm excited I'm able to share this with all of you all. Thank you for joining us. Please do well to send us your comments on what you think. We really want to hear what you think about the culture of silence. Drop it on our social media handles that are displayed right now, and we'll get to talk about it on our next show. Have a beautiful, beautiful day.
I'm Ijoma. Until I see you guys tomorrow.
Tomorrow, same
Sorosuke.
time. I know, right?
Yeah.
Same time tomorrow.
I do not believe that he signed the Electoral Act 2022 on his own volition. I believe that the APC was dragged there by the entirety of the Nigerian people, led by the People's Democratic Party. And we're in that place. One of the things that I would like people to focus on, to concentrate on, which is one of the promises of our candidate Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, is that promise to ensure that INEC will draw its funding as a first-line charge from the Federation account. It takes away the ability of the politicians to manipulate, to browbeat, to intimidate INEC into submission, and it gives the Commission true independence, the true ability to act in the best interests of Nigerian people and to ensure that the outcome of the elections are representative of the will of Nigerian people.